and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the relations between the government and the opposition. They are definitely at an all-time low, but is it the lowest ever? Have they been as bad earlier? And if they are low, then what is the reason? Is it this over-judicious use of the enforcement directorate as a sort of governance tool? Is it because there is no one of heft and gravitas who can actually go and talk to both the sides and achieve some kind of a compromise? You know, the last person man standing was Arun Jaitley, who was actually doing this work between Narendra Modi government and Sonia Gandhi. Now there seems to be no one. There are a whole lot of names, but either they don't have the mandate of the prime minister, or they don't have the credibility with the opposition. Ditto for the other side. After late Ahmed Patel's demise, there is also no one from the other side for various reasons, which we will discuss. So quickly, I'm going to start the show. Joining me is Sohail Seth, Sandeep Ghosh, Rashid Kidwai, and Aarti Jairath. Sohail, would you agree with me when I said the relations between the government and the opposition are the lowest ever? And why is that?
I would imagine they are low because there is brute majority in the hands of one particular political party, and the other party, which is the Congress in this case, has been deprived and declining in its majority over the years, or in its strength. So obviously that's number one. Number two, historically, between the two leaders of both these parties, Narendra Modi on the BJP side and Sonia Gandhi, there's never been any love lost. Number three, the BJP has constantly been hitting out at the sense of entitlement that the Congress has always lived with. And even a recent statement by Ashok Gehlot, who is not exactly known for his brilliance of articulation, said that, you know, the ED should actually go to Mrs. Gandhi's house to investigate her. Next, you'll want the Supreme Court to set up an adjunct court there. I mean, these are ridiculous comments that are made, which fall into the purview. You mentioned Jaitley. Arun was one of the finest cross-party, non-partisan floor managers, and I'm sure the government misses him. Today, what has happened is you have left no channel open. Even people who don't belong to the Congress or the BJP, who you could have roped in as mediators, are being, you know, either targeted or being sidelined or whatever. So you have a situation of zero communication channels available. Number two, the unwillingness of people to come down from their high horses of ego. Number three, both parties using each other's past behavior as a means of justifying their present behavior. When you ask the Congress, why are you disrupting? They say, but the BJP did it. You tell the BJP, they said, but okay, we did it that time, but haven't we all evolved? Why are they doing it now? In the process, we have killed parliamentary democracy. We have killed debate. We have killed disagreement, which is civilized rather than being disagreeable. And what we are seeing is every day, the common man's issues are being sidelined. And what is happening is a battle royale between the leaders of various political parties. It doesn't behove of any democracy well in this manner. And I think we are now in a deep, deep decline. I don't know when things will work. Today, you're taking positions from which you can't retract. You know, there's an old saying, Priya, it's my saying actually, always leave the door ajar. Always leave the door ajar. When you shut the door, you leave no other option. Leave the door ajar for something to happen. Today, we've shut all the doors.
I agree with him. Rashid, what is your take? You know, why is, and who's going to open a few doors? Do you have anyone in mind?
Yeah, so Priya, it takes two to tango. Now we have a situation there at some media conclave where special arrangements were made so that the BJP representative and the Congress they don't come face to face. So the entry was planned in such a way that one person will make entry and the other person will be ushered from another exit. So they don't even want to say hello to each other. There is complete trust deficit. I imagine at this time of Indira Gandhi, it is for the ruling party representative or ruling party to take the initiative, because they have to run the government, they have to run parliament. But here it is not happening. The relations between the Congress and the ruling party, or for that matter the entire opposition, are not even at functional level. There was a time when Advani ji was there and UPA was there, and sometime Advani ji's wife would send kadhi to Gujarati kadhi to Sonia Gandhi's house. Sonia Gandhi would pick some book that she would think that Advani ji would like to read. Nitin Gadkari was staying at a house just across Sonia Gandhi's residence. Sometime he sent those some vegetables in his back garden to her. So all kind of courtesies have been there, part and parcel. To say that, the majority, I don't think it has got to do with the majority thing, because Rajiv Gandhi had good majority, but Rajiv Gandhi sent, and it's documented, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee acknowledged that he sent him abroad for treatment when Vajpayee was not even member of parliament. So there is a total decline. I think there is an utter contempt, both sides have for each other. And that is a root cause of problem. They think that, there is actually almost sometimes I feel there is a kind of, criminal intent, which is very, very bad in democracy. That's it.
Sandeep, the use of ED also is not helping. All the opposition have some ED case or the other. I know it's not unusual, but look at the timing. Parliament is in session. They're grappling with ED. Obviously, there's not going to be any coordination on the floor of the House.
And let's assume that is true in terms of the vendetta politics and the what people accuse or this targeting of opposition. When you're talking of law and finding, striking an understanding, what is the understanding you're seeking? The only understanding I see people are pushing for is stop the ED raids on us. It has been recorded earlier that even Sharad Pawar went to meet Mr. Modi and said, "Kya karna hai? Aapka to 2 term ho gaya hai." This is what reported in your kind of diary kind of column. 2 term ho gaya hai, aap kyun piche pade ho? Now let things go. So if that is the negotiating point, then you can't have a understanding that ठीक है हम लोग दोनों मिलके agree करते हैं कि during monsoon session no more ED raids and then we let the session to carry on. Okay, that is, or you say that we will throw paper and run into the well of the House. That is not a problem. People have done earlier, or though I don't know whether people have done, and that you should ignore. Don't suspend us for that reason. If those are the places where you're trying to find a conciliation, I think that is misplaced. If what Suhail was talking about Arun Jaitley or an Advani or Pranab Mukherjee, they were finding negotiations on impasse. So there could be an impasse on a particular bill, particular stand, and that's where they go have a give and take situation, or even in a boycott of parliament. Okay, they find something and then they go ahead and do it. It is not for striking deals like that. And what Rashid says, with due respect, those I think are very, very superficial gestures he's talking about. I could be, I and you could be sworn enemies. I could be sending you Diwali sweets. You could be sending me something else. That doesn't take.
Even that is not happening, Sandeep.
No,
Hello, hi, bhi nahi ho raha hai.
No, I don't agree on that. That is being, understated. There are enough instances we will find where Modi has gone out of his way to actually reach out for personal reasons to people of the opposition, including a classic point which was shown. He went to Pune, he went to visit Arun Shourie in the hospital, spent time with him. Modi keeps that relationship very clear, except maybe with the top family. Whereas Rashid said there is a lot of bad blood, both sides, and there is, and that is apparent in a lot of reactions like the Smriti Irani case everywhere, that's undeniable. So I don't expect Modi to go and send fruits. Maybe he does to Sonia Gandhi when she's unwell, but everywhere else, you talk to people, I think there is a whole disconnect people are creating between what Modi does in private and what nobody refers to any of those things. People say he doesn't listen to, I'll just take half a minute. Listen to bureaucrats, talk to bureaucrats offline. Suhail talks many more. Everybody will say that the kind of listening he provides is better than any prime minister earlier. The same with anybody I've heard so far who goes to meet Modi. He listens.
But the prime minister will be the last person accused of not publicizing or communicating what he does.
On these purposes, he won't. He's got, everything has a political angle. He's not going to compromise a political angle with somebody to not to. Look at how he shared the stage with Stalin in Chennai. He needn't have. It's a union government sponsored event, but he let Stalin take the limelight over it. Because tactically.
Let me get Aarti, and also, Suhail, you want to quickly come in?
No, let Aarti.
Aarti, take on the equations. Do you agree with all the points that have been put across?
Well, Priya, what I see today is, I think, a complete lack of respect for the institution of parliament. Earlier politicians, and I've covered parliament now for almost 40 years. all politicians across the spectrum basically respected the institution of parliament, which is, the center of our, the nerve center of our democracy, where you debate, you discuss, and of course, the opposition will pillory the government and the government will pillory the opposition. And sometimes it gets very vicious and very acrimonious. Like the time that the BJP called Manmohan Singh chor, if you remember. I mean, I think that for me was the lowest point I'd seen in my career, or when they didn't allow Manmohan Singh to introduce his Council of Ministers when he first took over in 2004. But the fact is that I think across the spectrum, there was a respect for the institution of parliament and debate and discussion and so on. What I find today, and I'm sorry, I do have to blame the ruling party for this, because the ruling party is the one responsible for keeping parliament going. Correct. I think the ruling party today does not have any respect for the institution of parliament. And I think, in the first term, when Narendra Modi first came in, he was new to Delhi. He was new to this whole thing. So I think he was careful. And there was Arun Jaitley always behind him to advise him. And I must say that I think Arun was very much in that mold of a leader who respected parliament, who respected debate, who respected discussion. But after Modi has come back for a second term with a bigger majority than the first term, and, I think that today he feels, that there is really, he doesn't have time for this debate and this discussion and the views of the opposition. He doesn't even need them. He's now in Rajya Sabha, virtually got a majority, if not on his own. There are enough smaller parties that will, join hands with him, as we saw when they did that very contentious reading down of Article 370. So I think as far as Modi is concerned, he feels that it's a complete waste of time and his energy. He doesn't need it. So why should he even try to reach out to the opposition? He reaches out to the opposition when he needs them. Like, Sandeep mentioned the trip to Tamil Nadu. He knows that Stalin is an important leader in Tamil Nadu. He's the chief minister. He has a majority. And he cannot afford to insult, Stalin or ignore him, because that will not go down well with the people in Tamil Nadu. And he is, he has a long-term plan for the BJP to make inroads in Tamil Nadu. So he's playing that very carefully. Modi is a very shrewd politician. He does what he feels is necessary to further his politics. I think he feels parliament is not necessary. I think he feels a Congress, is great as a whipping boy, as, whipping post. And, anytime he wants to, kind of lash out at this politics of entitlement, the Gandhis are there. So he uses them for that. But he certainly is not going to go and consult Sonia Gandhi like Vajpayee used to do. Vajpayee, Manmohan Singh, they always, brief the opposition whenever there were any major decisions to be taken. Manmohan Singh would either do it himself or he would send somebody. So would Vajpayee. He would either do it himself or he would send somebody. But I think, Modi feels it's not necessary. And that is why you're seeing this terrible crisis point that we've reached now in parliamentary democracy.
Very want to come in,
Very simply put, cut the fluff. Indian democracy has moved from the political to the personal. Today, it is not about ideology, it's about personalities. Aarti talked about Modi, blah, blah, blah. The point is, we have moved from the politics of political parties to the politics of individuals. And that is the nub of the issue. That's why there are problems. Today, Sonia Gandhi doesn't want to discuss a particular political problem because she has a personal problem with Modi and vice versa. That doesn't augur well for any democracy.
I'm going to take a break, and after the break, I'm going to come back. I was in another discussion where the anchor asked a very interesting question. He said, do you remember the last time when Prime Minister Modi picked up the phone, or the only of an occasion when he picked up the phone and dialed Sonia Gandhi for anything? I Googled it and I found only one instance, maybe Sandeep can correct me, which was in April 2020 during that huge lockdown where he actually spoke to everybody and Sonia was one person he called. But I can't think of any other instance, whether it's happy birthday, happy Diwali, or just any call, come, let's talk over XYZ bill. No such phone call as far as my research has gone has happened, but I'll await to be corrected by Sandeep after a quick break. Hello and welcome back to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. We are here discussing the equation between the government and the opposition. It is definitely at a low, but is it at the lowest ever? Rashid, you want to come in on this discussion?
Absolutely. I think, Priya, that personal gestures we are talking about, they are of significance because, see, the ruling party or its, representatives want to, showcase opposition as some kind of anti-national. And that's where I have a huge problem with this kind of formulation. Opposition is not anti-national. This should be known to everyone. To say this kind of, ED raid because these are the corrupt people, and we are presiding over a very corrupt system. Every person who fights assembly election or Lok Sabha election has a, poll expenses ceiling of 50 lakhs or 75 lakhs. Now, everyone violates it. How is it that only, people of Trinamool or people of Congress and people of JMM are targeted? So this is, I think, anyone with any kind of, objectivity or intellectual capacity cannot and should not justify it. The problem with this government and the people who are there, they think they are going to be there for the one seat of power. Probably it may so happen, but we cannot, go on justifying it because democracy, everyone has a, role. People who have got votes and people who have not, everyone gets vote. The Congress also in some ways represents, the will of 17 crore people or so. So what I'm saying is this kind of contempt for left, liberal, media, sections of media, opposition, this is a very, Putin's version of democracy. This is certainly not our version of democracy.
But I want to add one thing. The only person who turned on his own government, every government does it, was Narasimha Rao when he did a raid against his own people, and we all know why he did it. Otherwise, most people do target the opposition. Only here is targeting to the power.
Yeah, Priya, sorry to interrupt, but I'm saying आटे में नमक मिलाया जाता है, नमक में आटा नहीं मिलाया जाता. Here it's become very, very blatant. That's what I'm saying. Nobody who has an understanding of Indian political system can justify it.
Yeah.
I want to say that what Rashid has said today is no longer relevant. We have had an architecture of Indian political democracy for 75 years. But almost 6 years ago, a man came and changed that definition of democracy, which existed in our minds and which certainly exists in his mind. A, B. Winston Churchill famously said the only person you've got to be popular with is your wife. Modi doesn't have one. He doesn't need to be popular. You've got to understand the psyche of the man. He's not interested in winning a popularity poll. He's not interested in NewsX, Priya, Sandeep, all of us, venerating him because we are not his constituents. We never will be. His remark about Lutyens and Lutyens Delhi is also ironic. While they want to stay in Lutyens Delhi, they want to bash everything that is Lutyenesque about Delhi. He has used these as symbols of distrust and symbols of disgust. That's what's happened. So there's no going back. Tomorrow, if Modi is replaced by Amit Shah or Yogi Adityanath or Fadnavis or whoever it is, please remember the idiom of this democracy is not going to change. It has been altered forever. You think when the opposition comes to power, if they ever do, they won't retaliate, they will also retaliate. Because not to prove a point to Modi, but to prove a point to the people saying these people were also corrupt if they find something on them. What is tragic is we have sullied the definition of Indian democracy in our mind, but that is not the definition of Indian democracy that they carry.
Yeah, Rashid's comparisons of, everybody has, transgressed somewhere or the other, they don't comply with the law. I think it's almost like comparing some offense at the traffic signal. आपने हमारा सामने वाला गाड़ी को क्यों जाने दिया, मुझे क्यों रोका? These are not that kind of transgressions we are talking about. If you find 50 crores somewhere, Rashid may or may not agree with the National Herald scam numbers. whether it's scam or alleged scam, I should say, numbers, but those are not parking ticket offenses. So you have to treat them at a very different level. Rashid says that there are 17 crore Congress voters. This is precisely what Congress went on harping to Modi, that you have not been elected by the entire nation. Only 39% people have voted against you. So that is our payback time. You'll get it back in terms. Last thing, why should Sonia Gandhi be sitting on that pedestal, not even going to pay respects to the president of India after he gets elected? Forget Narendra Modi. That is the problem you are having even today. If somebody says something to Sonia Gandhi, it is like you have disturbed, insulted the Queen of England. So everybody rushes to her thing. How dare, as Suhail was saying, they call her to the ED office, not go there. If you're on that pedestal and you think still, with 17 crore voters, and they went on harping, we are the largest parties in assembly, and that is each one of those things are dwindling.
And what were they protesting about? What was the Congress protesting about?
Therefore, it is, I'll just end Aarti in 2 minutes. Now you're talking about who reached out with Sonia Gandhi. I don't Google or I don't follow the record. Remember when Sonia Gandhi fell ill during campaigning in Varanasi? Did Modi reach out to him or not? Did he offer to send all the air ambulances and everything else? So there are a lot of things happening there. Last point I'll make is, you see, Nirmala Sitharaman may not be the best finance minister you've had, but she's also not the worst. You had some very terrible finance ministers in the country. But I think it's an ingrained misogyny due to which Nirmala Sitharaman is treated the way she is and the kind of comment she gets. She was making a very point by point, we disagree, rebuttal. What is your problem in listening to her? Yeah, and she, you stage a walkout, and then your spokesperson tweets the best part of her intervention was the ending, that it ended. This is the kind of insult you meet with people, and you expect them to treat you with respect. Yes, Aarti.
I'm not a fan of Sonia Gandhi, so this is not a defense of Sonia Gandhi or her behavior, all right? But I think it has become very fashionable for the last 6 to 8 years to vilify Sonia Gandhi and the Gandhis as symbols of Lachan's Delhi, of, entitlement, of, Khan market, of urban naxals. It's just become fashionable because this is a class that this government wants to berate and actually, finish off. It's a class that they feel a sense of hatred and enmity towards. All right. I mean, Sonia Gandhi in the Vajpayee years behaved completely differently to the way she is behaving now. And I'm sorry, that is because I think Vajpayee showed her the respect that a leader of the opposition deserves. Every time I remember, whenever Sonia Gandhi stood up to speak on the floor of the House, I know that Vajpayee would get somebody to, tip him off, and he would rush to the Lok Sabha to listen to her. He gave her that kind of respect. And Sonia Gandhi responded accordingly. I don't remember Sonia Gandhi ever behaving in the way that she behaves today. Because, it takes 2 hands to clap, Priya. One side respects, the other side will respond with respect. And Vajpayee did that. That was the greatness of Vajpayee. That because he believed in the institution of parliament, a parliamentary democracy, he showed equal respect to everybody. You remember that famous incident when the left parties came and met him because they were really worried that we were going to send troops to Iraq to help the Americans. And what did he tell them? He said, "Thoda zor se bolye na, aapki awaaz Washington tak pahunchni hai."
That's because he wanted, Advani had given the assurance and he wanted to find a way out also.
Yeah, but can you imagine Modi having this kind of an interaction with anybody in the opposition? No. It doesn't work like that.
What was Sonia Gandhi's strength then, and what is the Sonia Gandhi's strength today in
Parliament? That's not the point.
Personality.
Sorry, that's not the point. I don't think the point is whether she had 55 MPs today or she had 100, and she, in 1999 she had only 114 MPs.
So 114.
That was the
more than
lowest
double
ever
of
for
what
the
it is,
Congress.
34.
114.
I will say,
114 in 1999.
Okay,
Yeah,
let
no,
me
no,
speak and then
I will
Can
go
I-
back only one thing.
It's a question of
You
what
are
you
talking
believe
about
in.
Sonia
It's
Gandhi
a
and
question
Latin
of
being
whether
made-
you believe in the institution of parliamentary democracy.
Institution of
And
Parliament
whether
is
you
not
are
changed.
ready to give
My
respect.
problem is the institution of
or not.
Parliament, everything else
quickly,
is-
Sandeep, then
is
Rashid, and then
not an
Sohail.
institution of
Sandeep,
Parliament.
yeah.
You are talking about Latins being pulled down. Look at the book Rashid has written behind him. Read the account. Rajiv Gandhi, Sanjay Gandhi, with all their cronies, would use Rashtrapati Bhavan pool as their own pool. Nobody would question
So what
that.
is what is wrong in it?
No, we are talking about what is Latins and what is there, because at that stage, nobody talks. But today, if somebody does, people will talk. That's where the world has changed. At that point in time, in Sunday morning brunches with this whole coterie of 10 people who also control the
Again, what
government.
is wrong with it?
No, there's
Everyone does
nothing
it.
wrong.
I'm
But then
surprised
people
it's
didn't
not
talk
possible.
about it. So today people talk. What's wrong with that? Today you don't
Today
want.
there are also brunches happening. It's just a new set of people.
Obviously.
There's a new
Yeah,
poetry in place.
And
Parliament
truffle has been
and support is
replaced.
Another institution, you have a problem.
So, Priya, very quickly, this argument that the opposition doesn't have a requisite strength is flawed, and it's rather once again undemocratic, because since after 51 elections till 69 there was no leader of opposition, but Prime Minister Nehru extended all courtesies. The famous thing that war was taking place in 1962, young Atal Bihari Vajpayee demanded a special session of parliament, and Nehru conceded that. Can this government or the people who are thinking about it say that that was wrong? So this is a kind of system to say that the world has changed and all. I don't think world has changed. We are a constitutional democracy. We have rule of law. We are the Westminster model of parliamentary democracy. Just because the individual has won, that does not mean that we start looking at it that everything has changed. I think this is also a very undemocratic way of looking at things.
You will never ever say Rahul Gandhi's intellect matches his grandfather's. Why would you want Modi to be like Vajpayee? Simple. People are different. Different people are different people. I mean, Jawaharlal Nehru's lineage, both in terms of intellect and the way his liberal outlook was and the way he conducted himself. I don't expect Rahul Gandhi to be that way. Times have changed. People have changed. The politics of this country has changed. Why do you want to cast people in the mold that you believe is the perfect democratic mold and expect them to be as they are? Let Narendra Damodar Das Modi be Narendra Damodar Das Modi. Don't expect him to be Jawaharlal Nehru or Atal Bihari Vajpayee or Lal Krishna Advani. It is not fair.
But we can say what is right and what is wrong.
It's not fair and it is not logical. I don't
What he's
expect
saying is there is a change. Is that a good
Salman
change or a
Rushdie.
bad change?
It's about different. One point, Suhail would know better than me why they miss Arun Jaitley. Because on a National Herald case, they could go to him and take offline legal opinion from him.
Correct.
As per all record, he had given certain ways out. Today, nobody from the BJP side will give them that opinion and say, you proceed along these ways and you will probably find a escape route. These are very, very, I think, transactional material. Let's not say that is Vajpayee, that is, and if Nehru was humble in 1962, he had a lot to be humble about.
Priya, just to answer Suhail, I think nobody is saying that Rahul Gandhi should be Nehru or that Modi should be Vajpayee. Nobody's saying that. All we're saying is that there was a respect for democracy, there was a respect for parliament, there was a respect for the opposition. That is completely missing in today's politics.
Absolutely.
Completely missing. And I think that is what we are talking about. Not that we expect Modi to behave like Vajpayee. Obviously not. They're two different kinds of people. But Modi is a very transactional politician.
Hindi cinema ka gana yaad kariye.
I do not think he believes in the institution.
I'm totally out of time.
cinema ki gaane ki yaad kariye. Waqt ki baat hai babua.
That parliamentary democracy is the wrong system for India. They have wanted the constitution to be rewritten.
ठीक है वो भी हो जाएगा देश बदल रहा है आरती जी
I'm really sorry to cut this very interesting debate short, but it's totally out of time. So thank you all, and I hope to get you back and keep the topic going. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.